Good evening, everyone. BioSpectrum, in association with BioStartUps, welcomes you to today's webinar on how artificial intelligence, or AI, is revolutionizing the drug discovery and development process. My name is Dr. Manveena Chawla, and I'm the executive editor at BioSpectrum. Now, in recent years, the integration of artificial intelligence, or AI, into the field of drug development has sparked a paradigm shift, revolutionizing the traditional approach to drug discovery. Now, this explores the profound impact of AI on the drug development process, highlighting its pivotal role in accelerating innovation, enhancing efficiency, and ultimately bringing life saving medications to market faster. We have gathered here today with a panel of experts for an illuminating webinar as we delve into the transformative impact of AI on drug development. And to do so, let me introduce you to our first speaker. That is Dr. Sudeep Roy, the founder of Prescience in Silico, a Bengaluru-based startup that is working on the development of software products and solutions in the areas of integrating artificial intelligence, high-throughput computing, cloud computing, with physics-based computational methods in drug and materials design development. Dr. Roy has 20 years of experience in industry and academia in India and Europe, with a rare cross-functional skill set in emerging technologies like quantum computing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, to name a few. Welcome, Dr. Roy. The next speaker with us is Dr. Aridhni Shah, co-founder and CEO of Immunito AI. Now, she is an accomplished researcher with a rich history of contributing to the scientific community. Her pioneering work in uncovering molecular mechanisms for time memory in honeybees, a non-model organism, has not only resulted in peer-reviewed publications, but also fostered international research collaborations. And with Immunito AI, Dr. Aridhni is now tackling pressing challenges in the field of antibody therapeutics. And a third speaker I would like to welcome is an policy expert, Dr. Reggie Joseph, who's an associate professor at the Institute for Studies in Industrial Development in Delhi. Dr. Joseph has several peer-reviewed papers on Indian pharmaceutical industry, public health, patents and innovation, international investment agreements, and trade policy. And our fourth speaker today for the panel is Dr. Achintya Das, Head Computational and Data Sciences at Syngene International. Dr. Das is an experienced data sciences and modeling leader with expertise across computational chemistry and biology, informatics, artificial intelligence, and data analytics platforms. A warm welcome to all our speakers. All right, so we begin the discussion where I would like to direct my first question to Dr. Sudeep Roy. So tell me, what do you think is the current view of the landscape of AI integration in drug discovery? How are we placed?
Thank you, Manavina. I hope you could listen me and it's clear.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Manavina, for inviting and giving this opportunity. So, as we see from Prescience in Silico, the landscape currently how it looks is that drug discovery is not a single run in the game, right? It has several components, starting from early stage drug discovery, early stage target discovery, to taking towards preclinical, biological assays and things like that. And after that, filing and clinical studies.
Right.
So this is a 12 years, 13 years long process. It takes, billions of dollars. Current estimate is around $2 billion for one drug to get into the market. And having said that, I'm not even considering the facts of biosimilars, biologics, which is currently in coming up very heavily. And also the manufacturing is there, and the scaling up the processes are there. So there are so many things are in this puzzle. So it's basically thousands of small pieces in the puzzle which can be stitched together and bring a drug to the market.
Right.
So now, artificial intelligence, or machine learning is not something which is very new. It's there for last 30 years, I would say, and it is been used in drug designing or drug discovery and formulations in bits and pieces here and there in different ways. So we used to name it something different, and we have started naming it something different now. However, in last 10 years, what we are seeing is that there is a a very well adoption of these kind of technologies in all the pieces in this puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
I could, give you a few examples on that respect.
Yes.
You can think about the AlphaFold, which is Google's DeepMind project. It's in
Mm-hmm.
last three to 4 years they came up with 200 million protein structures, which was not available. We know that currently maybe PDB databases will have around 2 lakh protein structures. So,
Mm-hmm.
this is a right direction towards identification of target using artificial intelligence. So this is the one of the
Mm-hmm.
largest example, most probably, of this decade. Then, if you talk about that, how many molecules they came from
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence, the starting from artificial intelligence, even if you talk
Mm-hmm.
about from an early stage drug discovery. So you are looking at a new chemical entity and taking
Right.
towards
Right.
the clinical study within, say, a shorter duration. So
Mm-hmm.
generally, well understood in the literature or in the industry is that it takes around 7 to 8 years to bring one molecule from an early stage, where you start from millions of molecules or
Mm-hmm.
and a data set of that, and then bringing one molecule or say 5 molecules to a
Mm-hmm.
clinical stage. So that's the time frame. And if you see the success of the AI, there are around 150 molecules currently at that stage,
Oh, great.
which are hitting towards the clinical trial. There are 15 molecules which has hit target the
Mm-hmm.
clinical trials of phase 1, phase 2, something like that. And one of the people who are leading this activity
Mm-hmm.
are names like Exscientia or In
Mm-hmm.
Silico Medicine, and then these are the companies
Right.
they are leading that, right? Means
Right.
Exscientia, they came up with the first in class molecule for for OCD, and
Mm-hmm.
similarly, like the in silico medicine is also working on several molecules, and few molecules are already hitting their clinical trials. So, having said that, if you see the scenario now, it is
Mm-hmm.
starting from early stage to going
Right.
to the clinical trial, and
Mm-hmm.
in every cases they are being highly integrated, and particularly in drug design and drug screening and preclinical and up to the clinical stage.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, the story is not complete here, right? Means people are using AI in other cases as well, in a manufacturing as well. Let's say, if you
Mm-hmm.
would like to understand the tablets which have been manufactured, and then want to understand that whether it is a properly shaped and properly,
Right.
all these things can be are used in those cases as well. In a manufacturing industry, AI is used for understanding when there will be a fail off, when there will be a timeout for these machines. So what will be the
Right.
rate of failure for some large production plants? So where also the
Right.
AI is being used. AI is heavily used now imaging as well.
Right.
Imaging
Right.
in starting from the cell assays and things like that. The imaging is starting from there. So having said that, there are a lot of success stories in these 5 and 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the last point I would like to make in this whole thing, as we are going to look at the startups as well in this domain.
Right. Yes.
So, and who is contributing, right? Means who is majorly contributing. So,
Yes.
what I'm seeing from different reports and things like that, if you see in last 10 years, there are at least 10 companies who have, got billions of dollars of funding, if you put
Mm-hmm.
together all, and I
Mm-hmm.
named few of them,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and there
Yes.
are few more. And the investors who are investing in these companies, they are seeing that
Mm-hmm.
future, right? They are seeing this future, that how this in 5 years is going to play a role, because you have a data point of 15 drugs already in a clinical trial
Mm-hmm.
kind of a case. So, having said that, it's a starting point for artificial intelligence. We are just 5 years,
Absolutely.
7 years old. A lot of way to go, and properly sitting in India as a startup, we would also like to participate, and that's why we are here. And we are also trying to contribute to this area, and hoping for the best to happen. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Roy, there. And yes, very well said that startups are making a mark for themselves in this field of AI and drug discovery. So I will direct my next question to the next startup that we have here, that is Dr. Aridhni. So tell me, Aridhni, as per your experience and the work that you're doing, what potential do you see that startups would be able to make in this field? And of course, they have their own set of challenges also to tackle. So how do you think is the way forward in this field for the startups?
Sure. Thank you so much, Manmina, first of all, for inviting me here for the webinar. So largely, I think Dr. Sudeep has nicely summarized, the overall history of AI in the drug discovery space.
Right.
And I think largely he focused on small molecule drugs. That's where we've seen a lot of AI, as well as in the overall pharma process. This is largely to do with the small molecules. We deal with biological molecules, which is a new class of therapeutics that has come up over the last 20, 30 years. And there are a set of challenge when it comes to large molecules. These are biological molecules. How do you synthesize it? What are the properties? How do you get, first of all, how do you discover them? That's a whole different field of research. And as he rightly talked about AlphaFold, I think before AlphaFold, there were a lot of questions about whether we can use AI for solving a lot of the protein related problems. But protein folding was for a very long time thought that you can't use AI to solve that. And with AlphaFold coming up and showing, if you have out of a box kind of thinking, if you can
Right.
use the current technology, they use language models. With that, you could solve a significant portion of the problem, right? And I think
Right.
now today people are talking about whether the experimental results are correct or the AI generated results are correct. So there's now that debate.
Yes.
So yes, so there are new sets of challenges now when you look at proteins as a therapeutic, and overall as a startup. The advantages of startups are that you can have a very small team, and for problems like you need cross domain expertise, right? So you need a very good protein biochemist sitting together with an AI engineer and solving that problem from both the ends, not just
Yes.
one dominating over the other. And as
Right.
startups, for example, that's how our company is also, the way that we have the composition. We have very core domain experts on the biological side as well as on the AI ML side, and we all sit together in a small room and discuss and brainstorm how do we solve these problems. So as a startup, I think that kind of agility is what we have, and therefore we have the potential to progress much faster than, I would say, large established pharma companies, where there are multiple layers of decision making. There's a lot of things that need to be put together, and therefore that's why I think, as again Dr. Sudeep pointed out, there are a lot of startups that have come up in this space and have been
Right.
able to move very quickly and solve these problems at a small team level much faster. And we take very focused areas, right? For example, as I said, we are doing only antibody based therapeutics using AI. Similarly, someone would be working on, let's say, formulation, as he pointed out, small molecule drugs. So each startup focusing on a very one set of problem and very quickly trying to solve for that. That's, I
Right.
think, one of the advantages of startups sitting and solving these problems.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
Yes, and coming to the challenges,
Mm-hmm.
yes, startups have been funded heavily, largely in the US ecosystem. Um, it's been a little difficult for deep tech startups and even more so for biotech startups to get the kind of in the Indian VC ecosystem. Largely, I think this stems from a couple of factors. One is that the kind of expertise that is required to evaluate companies like us, right? That's a bit lacking in the VC ecosystem in India as of today. The risk appetite, again, these are technologies which take time. There are long gestational periods. The revenue may
Yes.
not be seen for another 3 years, 5 years, and
Right.
therefore you need to have that kind of patient capital. And I think if a VC weighs a deep tech over a quick SaaS sort of a play, I think we need
Right.
philanthropists in the VC ecosystem who would say, I would rather, even for the same set of benefits, I'd rather invest in a technology that is going to give me long-term benefits over a very short-term gain. So I think that's the sort of challenges that every deep tech and biotech company in India today is facing, getting the right kind of capital at the right time. Yes.
Yes, very well said there, and totally agree with that. So, what we have understood so far with the discussion with Dr. Sudeep Roy and Dr. Ridni is that we have the expertise, we have the talent, and the startups are going way ahead and making a difference. But there are regulatory or funding challenges which could create hiccups in the way. So, I would now like to direct my next interaction with Dr. A.G. Joseph, who has also just raised his hand there, because he would give us a policy perspective as to what is right, what is wrong within the ecosystem at this point in India particularly, where we can take the AI and drug discovery interaction to the next level. So Dr. Joseph, all for you. What do you have to say on this?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Manbina, for inviting me to this interesting webinar. So the previous speakers have already provided a background of the global landscape of AI in drug discovery and the challenges the startup ecosystem is facing.
Right.
I recently came up across a report which mentions that in next 10 years' time, 50% of drug approvals in US will involve artificial intelligence. So this is the kind
Wow.
of potential that AI is offering for the pharma sector. And it is also providing new therapies for diseases, even for rare diseases, for which uh, no therapy was available until recently. So this is
Right.
the kind of power that AI is having. So what is AI do? What is AI doing in terms of pharmaceutical R&D? So as Dr. Sudeep said, in a typical R&D setup, a new drug development would involve about 12 years in different phases. Artificial intelligence can play a role in all these different phases, but it has been found that its contribution is phenomenal or transformational in the early stages of R&D, preclinical R&D stages. So mainly two things happen at this stage. One is target identification. So basically, understanding is being developed on how a disease is working in human body and which human part is a target of the disease. So
Right.
for this, a lot of data has to be analyzed, which involves clinical data, publications, patent documents, etc. And it also, in this phase, a number of chemical molecules are identified, which could be used for treating that disease. But the
Right.
thing is that this phase R&D is very risky. So it is said that out of 10,000 molecules identified at this stage, only one will reach the market. So the failure rate is very high. But here, what AI does is that it reduces the chances of failure by narrowing down to most suitable, most appropriate chemical molecules. So this way, it is reducing the chances of failure, and it is
Right.
also reducing the number of processes involved, so which is contributing in reducing the time and cost involved. So in this way, it is also helping in increasing the efficiency of research and development process.
Right.
But we have to develop algorithms, AI for that. It depends on good quality data, and a good amount of this data would be personal data. So personal data means some entries in the data which can lead to identification of individuals. And due to privacy concerns, so many countries are imposing restrictions on the use of personal data. And in those countries, it is required that the personal data should be converted into non-personal by anonymizing the data.
Right.
So this involves cost, and startups which are smaller in size, this adds to their operational cost.
Absolutely.
In India, so in last few months, data protection legislation was enacted that is called the Digital Personal Data Protection Act. So In India, the Supreme Court has held that privacy is a part of fundamental right to life. So privacy has to be respected and protected.
Yes.
So the act is providing that except central government, no data fiduciary can process personal data. But it has a provision under section 17.3 which allows central government to provide some exemption to startups from some of the requirements under this act. But the rules under this act are being framed, so we do not know how the rules would be, but media reports indicate that startups may get a longer period of time for compliance. But in the long term, the startups will have to be prepared for complying with this regulation, which is going to add up to their cost.
Right,
The second thing that I would like to highlight is in terms of developing AI capability in overall innovation ecosystem of India.
Right.
So we know that India is the third largest startup ecosystem globally in terms of number of startups. It is reported that we have about 92,000 DPIIT recognized startups. Out of this, about 3,000 are in the deep tech area. But what is important is what is the contribution of these deep tech startups in the overall innovation ecosystem of India? So when we say deep tech startups, there is no clear definition of what is deep tech startups. So generally, many experts take the view that startups which are able to produce intellectual property can be considered as deep tech startups. If that is so, if we look at the patent data, that would give us some indication of where do the deep tech startups lay in the Indian innovation ecosystem. So I was looking at the patents granted data. In 2021, out of the total patents granted in India, the deep tech startups account for only 0.1%. That means it's very insignificant.
Yes.
So the role of deep tech startup in the Indian innovation scenario, it's very, very low. So this points to the urgent need of enhancing the AI capability in the ecosystem. So if we recall, during the last budget speech, the finance minister proposed that we will create AI capabilities by establishing some centers of excellence in higher education institutions. This is definitely a welcome move. But the catch is that the capabilities created in higher education institutions should be spilled over to the industry. So for that, the industry academic collaboration should be vibrant. This is a weak point of India. When we talk about the innovation ecosystem, the industry academic collaboration is very poor in India. So this is one issue that we need to take up if we have to create a good deep tech startup ecosystem in India. But I believe that some of the recent initiatives that the government has taken would help in building the industry academic collaboration. To give you an example, the Anusandhan National Research Foundation Act in 2023. So this act basically aims to provide overall guidance to the research, the public funded research in India. And this act lays a great emphasis on industry academic collaboration in project funding. So I think such initiatives would help in building this industry academia partnership.
Absolutely, very well said. But I think that might just take some time to reach a particular level because there's so many challenges at the moment, and of course we have much to learn from the global counterparts also. So I would like to direct my next question to Dr. Das, who's from Syngene, and your company has like so much global exposure. You must be facing, a lot of challenges from their perspective also, and probably India lies far behind in terms of what they have achieved. So could you throw some light as to where India stands in terms of their global counterparts? I mean, addressing all the challenges we have discussed so far in AI and drug discovery integration. Dr. Das, what's your take on that?
Yeah, thanks, Manavina. Actually, the landscape is pretty interesting right now. If you look at it from the global perspective, and then we can look at where India stands. If you look at adoption of AI, as Sudeep pointed out, AI is nothing new. We've been working on various aspects of AI and integrating that along the drug discovery development pipeline for decades. What's changed is in over the last decade or so what I call the AI first companies that you start with AI designs, then you integrate other parts of the discovery or development stack into that to arrive at clinical candidates.
Right, right.
So the way that the startups approached it was the ground up. You started looking at parts of discovery, and as Arini said, somebody considered on small molecules. Somebody looked at what is the connection of disease to targets, to identify targets. Some people on various other modalities like degraders, antibodies, etc. Um, while many of them started to develop platforms, um, they slowly transformed into organizations that form partnerships to take assets forward, or they're developing their own pipelines. And so
Right.
that's they are moving. The larger pharma sort of are taking a wait and watch approach on this. Their approach has been more on the clinical side. So lot of the applications on the clinical and the on the late development side are being driven from the large pharma side.
Right,
The
right.
Yeah, and so there is a shift in both in funding as well as the intention of the startups abroad now towards becoming sort of biotech companies. So they're setting up in including AI, they're setting up other stacks either themselves or by forming partnerships or using CROs to go further.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so, so that's the way that the industry is moving. And if you look at funding, even abroad, there are 200 odd AI startups right now in drug discovery.
Okay.
But around 60 to 65% of the funding has gone to the top 10 companies. So it's all determined by what therapeutic area are you concentrating on. Where are you in terms of some interesting assets or interesting targets that you developed on your own rather than the platform itself. There are very few players who are pure platform players now, and it's all about what are you able to do with it and showcase your technology.
Absolutely, Dr. Das. So I would also like to ask you one question based on the experience that you have with the global counterparts. What do you think in the future, not only in India, around the world, do you think startups will take the lead for integrating AI and drug discovery compared to the big pharma
Yeah,
players?
yeah. So there's no doubt about that. Startups and other technology companies are going to lead the way. So pharma is basically taking a large pharma is taking a wait and watch approach. They're looking at what works, what doesn't, before they integrate that. The success from AI in any of the whether it's small molecules or large molecules, antibodies, etc., will come when you start integrating these into your DMTA, your design make test analyze cycle, rather than considering that as a silo or somewhere where you generate some hypothesis and you keep the data scientist and the scientist separate. And that's the point that Aridni made, that
Right,
the better you integrate that. Uh,
right.
right. So in India now we have that problem that we have AI companies. I mean, a few are different, of course, who are developing the capabilities, the technologies, uh, but the drug discovery and expertise, the medicinal chemistry, the biology, and all rest elsewhere. So
Right.
if we don't figure out a way to integrate that, then that next wave of technologies or therapeutics will
Right.
not come from us, but will be driven by some people abroad. Um, so,
Yes, yes.
so yes, startups or companies that have decided to go
Mm-hmm.
into AI rather than taking a
Right,
wait and watch approach
right.
will drive innovation. But that
Mm-hmm.
innovation is not just in AI, right? So it's about creating those stacks, and
Mm-hmm.
that is where organizations like Syngene come in, that
Mm-hmm.
have the all the tracks that are involved in drug discovery development, and plugging in AI and building a
Mm-hmm.
integrated ecosystem around that will
Mm-hmm.
lead better therapeutics or more efficient way of arriving at a candidate, and that's
Right.
what we have already set out to do. So one of the things that we have invested in is a
Mm-hmm.
platform that we are calling Sin.ai, which is
Mm-hmm.
really our platform to do translation biology, target
Right.
identification, looking
Yes.
at molecules, both small molecules, degraders, as well as
Mm-hmm.
antibodies, etc. And,
Right,
and
right.
then the other thing is, it's not about time and cost.
Mm-hmm.
One of the milestone by which it will be the AI will be measured at end
Mm-hmm.
is success rates. Yes, we can cut down cost, we can cut down
Mm-hmm.
timeline, but
Right, right.
as Sudeep mentioned, the success rates are so few when you go to the clinic.
Right,
Uh,
right.
so one of the things that we have to show is that not only can you design more efficiently, but
Mm-hmm.
I can actually ensure greater success in the clinic. And this is where AI can help, right? I mean, now while at the time when you're starting to think of your project, think of your
Mm-hmm.
target, and think of your molecule, you are already starting to look at what is the clinical outcome going to be, and how do I ensure
Right.
maximum success. So yes,
Yes.
although today it's too early to say where will we, because the initial
Mm-hmm.
molecules are just getting into clinic. There is no
Yes.
doubt that at probably 5 to 10 years from now, we'll
Yes,
see a
yes.
huge impact of AI on the drug discovery and
Discovery.
industry in general.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Dr. Das, for that note out there. So I'll now go back to Dr. Sudeep Roy. Like summing up on the conclusion that we've had with all of us in the first round of discussion comes to the fact that startups are good to go in this direction, and we must push their achievements and their work so that we reach the next level. So would you have a set of recommendations probably to make to the industry or to the academicians or to the government so that everybody can work together and take this to the next level? Because as Dr. Joseph pointed out, the deep tech startup number is too low
Yeah,
at the moment. So something needs to be done to enhance these loose ends. So what's your
yeah,
take and what's your thought on that?
yeah. Manovina, thanks. Achinto really pointed out a very nice point. I just take from there and then close the loop. So there are companies who are platform companies. There are companies who are drug developers, or drug screening companies who are, or drug designing companies who are also
Mm-hmm.
AI companies. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
you see the landscape, I was talking about the landscape. 10
Mm-hmm.
years back, it was very simple. Whoever was doing something with AI, or designing an AI algorithm for drug discovery, drug designing, whatever, they would have got a funding very easily. Now, at a current scenario, in the last 3 4 years, where our experience comes in, we are seeing that the platform companies are a little bit, getting in a backstage,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the drug companies or drug designing companies are coming up front. The VCs, when they come in for
Mm-hmm.
startup, they are looking
Mm-hmm.
for that. Which are the molecules you have? Is there a molecule which can be a potential drug for tomorrow?
Used.
What
Right.
kind of experimentation validation you have done? It's not the AI,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the platform. That is what we are experiencing. So, and it is worldwide. Means you the 10 companies what I talked
Mm-hmm.
about, the who are having the most funding. Reggie also talked about them. 60%
Mm-hmm.
funding of the taken by them, because they started 10
Mm-hmm.
years back. They started designing the starting point were there for them were algorithms. But if you see
Mm-hmm.
last 5 years, all these company, you can take Recursion, you can take In silico, you can take Exscientia. All of them converted themselves as a drug discovery company. They don't want to sit in their, in the AI bubble and just keep doing AI. They are going into clinical trials. They are doing it by themselves or in partnership or in collaboration. So, as you correctly mentioned, that what the startups in this time they should do, what kind of thinking they should go around, and what government should do in this kind of scenario. So the startup should look for, of course, they can work on platform as we are still working on platform, but they should look for a area they want to focus in, and which of there can be a potential collaborators. In India, the number is very, very small. That is an unfortunate case because we are mostly in repurposing and mostly in manufacturing kind of a, the industry setup.
Right.
So still we can look for who are having the innovation pipelines going on and see that we can get into a very early stage with them, collaborating with them, signing a partnership and things like that.
Right.
And if you can actually have a success on that, most probably the people who are still not trying to fund the deep tech startups, they might say, okay, this is a great opportunity. These people are having collaboration with Biocon, for instance, and why not we fund them and make this take towards this. Now, coming to the Reggie's point about the deep tech startup and the patent portfolios. So for patent portfolios, it's very, very important that there is an academia collaboration happens, because the startups are mostly the funding is low. So if you want to file a patent, like for us, for pre-science, if you want to file a patent, we have to validate that. We cannot just go and file a patent based on our simulations and AI tool, right? We can file a copyright, but we cannot file a patent. We need a partner where we can get this validated. Then only the patent comes for us. So this is where we are seeing a lot of barrier for the academic collaborations, because also they are also looking for some collaborations, but they're also collaborating with a certain charges. They will not do it for free. So it's that's a kind of a scenario we are standing in India. So at the same time, there is requirement of well-funded research happening in academia or in industry academia collaboration. That there should be some funding, separate funding, not only the academic research, so that we can do things what we are thinking, and get a patent portfolio for us building that, and also that the startups can look for more collaborations coming out of that platform mentality and things like that. So that's my take on this.
Right. So yes, absolutely. I think there are challenges at every level which needs to be sorted down in order to go forward. So Dr. Aridhni, what is your take on this in order to ensure success coming from a startup level? How would you want to go forward and make a difference?
Sure. I think one important point that I want to highlight is, AI is a buzzword today, and everyone do AI, everyone it. And because of that, what has happened is, a lot of people get into it without really understanding, so it's more about finding the right problem and the right
Solution.
instead of saying, so there's the saying, right, that you have a hammer, you don't have to go and bang every single thing that you come across. But today, to a large extent, this has happened where, because it's a buzzword, we know we have this AI, which is a tool, and you want to solve every single problem with AI. That's not necessary. A lot of the things that are very simplistically solved, for example, again, in our pipeline, we have certain things that are very simple rule-based systems, certain things that are mathematical models, certain things are ML, and then certain things are deep learning, right? So it depends on what is the problem, and then you find the most efficient, most simplistic solution, right? So you use something, the Occam's razor, right? You say what is the most simplest way, or what is the simplest explanation for something. So you find the most simplest way. You don't go around doing deep learning for even very simple calculations.
Right.
So I think that's one word of caution that I'd like to put out there to everybody, that you should definitely use AI to solve your problems as long as there is a requirement of AI to solve that problem. And so then what would you do is identify the right set of problem and identify the right set of solution for that exact
Hmm.
problem.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. So that is, I think, one road to success. Find the right problem, find the right solution.
Solution. Hmm.
And one more thing that I wanted to add is both Dr. Shadeep and Dr. Ajinta pointed out on the platforms, right? I think the view on platforms have changed over the years. And now what, at least in my research, what I've seen is that the pharma industry, at least, is moving away from single molecule deals and going towards more of technology, differentiated technology platform deals, where using a differentiated technology, you could probably come up with multiple drugs using the same platform. Right. So what we've seen is from 2008, where there were 50-50 of deals in discovery platform versus single molecule deals. Now, as of 2022, it's a 80-20. So 80% of the deals in the pharma industry have happened in where there is more of a multi-target sort of deals from a single
Hmm.
platform. You can have multiple targets, multiple drugs coming out of it. So I think the
Right.
focus should be on such differentiated technologies with one solution, you might be able to come up with, multiple different drugs and
Hmm.
different just solutions as such, instead of saying, okay, let me just build one drug, and then, because
Hmm.
then you're putting everything there. If it's a success, great, you have billions of dollars, but if not, then what?
It is not
Right.
there.
Yes, so I think we have to think more sustainable, think about
Hmm.
what is the solution that gives us long-term benefits. And as Dr. Ajinta rightly pointed out, it should be more of success-based rather than cost and time-based. Let's aim for success. Today,
Success.
at least in biologics, we have, I think, 1 in 50 projects eventually reaching the market. That's too low a number. And so we should try and
Hmm.
get as many number of drugs in the market as opposed to, just working on saving time and money, I think.
Yes, that's a perfect approach of success out there, because eventually success is what really matters. So, Dr. Joseph, I'm going to ask you the last set of questions quickly to wrap this up before we do that. Now, as you mentioned about the deep tech startups being so low in number and there are so many challenges in order to ensure success for them, are there any policy recommendations that can be formed, or things that can be structured, in a more defined way, so that we would have a set goal to take forward in order to ensure the success as what everybody is focusing on? What is your take on that? How do we go about with it?
Yeah. See, the strengthening the deep tech startup ecosystem is not only for the pharma sector, for the entire
Hmm.
industry, we require
Hmm.
that, because now the focus of the government is in increasing the share of manufacturing in India's GDP. So the industry will have to be transformed, and the
Hmm.
new technologies will play a major role. So I believe that the government should like the Make India program for the manufacturing
Hmm.
sector, should
Hmm.
launch some dedicated scheme for the
Hmm.
strengthening of the ecosystem of the deep tech startups. So for that, as I said, first of all, there should be a definition. So what is meant by
Hmm.
deep tech startups? Then only any policy measures can be
Right,
adopted
right.
for aimed at that sector. Then the
Hmm.
second thing is in terms of capability building. So that I already mentioned that the industry academia linkage that needs to be strengthened.
Hmm.
So what are the issues? We do not know exactly why industry academic collaboration is very weak in India.
Hmm.
If you talk to the
Hmm.
industry, we get one perspective. We talk to the academia, we get a totally different
Another.
perspective. So we don't know. So
Right.
what exactly is the issue? So that needs to be
Hmm.
identified and solved. The third
Absolutely.
specific thing would be in terms of financing. So, as
Hmm.
Arithni said, the gestation period is longer for deep tech startups. As a result,
Hmm.
generally investors are uh, reluctant to invest in such
Right.
startups. So
Right.
there should be somebody to support those startups. So one option could
Hmm.
be to encourage the government-backed investors, such as Life Insurance Corporation of India,
Hmm.
employee provident fund organizations. So that can be mandated to make some investment in deep tech startups. This could be one option. The other
Hmm.
option could be to devise some financial incentives so that the investors are incentivized to invest in deep tech startups. So these are some of the suggestions that I would like to make.
May
Thank
I
you,
just
Dr.
add
Joseph.
to that?
Please, Dr. Das, yes.
One of the important things for AI to succeed is data. And so there are two ways, right? Either you generate your own data, which is costly, or you form some kind of consortia or a government-led consortium that where it allows you to pool data in some way and learn. Not all data is clinical patient data. There are other data that is critical. And I think one of the greatest drawbacks for companies in India is access to data, and there is something that needs to be done about that, either from the government side, or in industry. We should get together to form consortia where some anonymized sharing of data can happen, because that's going to be a big drawback. Historically, data has rested with large pharma companies. AI companies abroad are starting to generate their own data now. That all involves cost. So that's one area that I think we should start planning for as a country, to so that we can benefit from that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Das, for sharing that note. So as we are coming towards the end of this webinar, we already see a lot of questions coming up from the audience also. So before I turn the table to that, let me just sum it up and take everybody's consent on that yes, we are moving in the right direction, with AI being a transformative technology and drug discovery being a very, very critical part of innovation in our country. If these two things get together, we could be from this to this. It's a matter of time. But of course, there are challenges which needs to be addressed, and we at BioSpectrum are happy to help the industry, academicians, and the government to bring everything together, jot down the points, and work on it one by one so that we can make a difference, because the entire ecosystem needs to work together to make a difference here. So I will just now turn the table to the question and answers coming from the audience, and I will direct those questions to the speakers, as in whoever wants to respond to that appropriately. Can we have the first question on board here? Okay, so this is from Madhura coming and saying that how would the data normalize, say 700 points, will lead to personal ID, also making the data available, de-identified from central source can solve the issue. Many successes so far have been on the literature data. Dr. Das, would you like to take that? I think it's a technical sort of a question, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That there are ways to anonymize data. That's something that we need to think about. For example, at Syngene now, we have created a data consortium for our partners, where we are saying we'll anonymize data so that nobody knows what data is there, but a learning from data is available to all members of the consortium. We should do that for data that we generate, or that's there in a health system. We can set up that ecosystem with anonymization techniques, with blockchain, to be able to completely anonymize the data and make it available to all the AI companies or anybody wanting to do something with it.
Right, so that's very much doable. It's all about technology and everything is in hand. So thank you, Dr. Das, for that. Can we have the next question on board? Okay, this is from Dr. Pandey saying that, do you see any challenge with respect to health authorities while using AI for drug development? Discovery might still be okay. So if it's health authorities, Dr. Joseph, would you want to take that up as a question? It's like probably a regulatory consent that is required.
See, let me try to answer. Okay, so I will not claim that I will be able to answer it. Right. Let me make an attempt.
Yes.
Okay, so 1 second. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Dr.
Yeah. See, if you remember the development of vaccines during the COVID pandemic, so we know normally it takes about 12, more than 12 years, but in this case, in about 1 year, 2 years time, we could bring to the market entirely new medical
Product.
products.
Right.
So here we see involvement of different types of new technologies, artificial intelligence, genetics, different types of technologies, and the entire regulatory system worked together. Okay, it did not adopt a strict conventional approach in terms of approvals. So in an emergency situation, so we justified that we could do that. But
Right.
in the course of time, I believe that the regulatory system will also be adjusting to the requirement of new technologies.
As in when a product is ready and
Yes,
the
yes, yes,
requirement is there. Yes.
yes.
Okay, Dr. Joseph, thank you so much. Can we have the next question on board, please? Okay, how does AI impact the cost effectiveness of drug discovery and development? Would the drugs be cheaper or expensive? Dr. Sudeep Roy, do you want to comment on this?
Sure. Yeah, that's the target. Means I think at the end of the day, as a consumer, we are looking at that. The shorter duration and less trial and error
Right.
and more effective drugs. More effective
Yes.
drugs in this case, we know about the antibiotics and their resistance, and so can we come out of that? Can we bring in new antibiotics or the resistance, less prone to resistance and things like that. So
Correct.
this is where all our targets, and if we can do that in principle, then if it is a shorter time, it is quickly in the market and less amount of clinical trials, then of course the drugs will be cheaper.
Right.
Now, but we are not stopping there, right? The new technologies are coming now.
Right.
Of course, the small molecules are taking a back seat. Biologics are coming in, and then biologics manufacturing is more costlier. So there are some things which are new in the technology. Not only the AI part of it, that is, creating that the cost. So this is a balance. I think when this biologics will become 10 years old and the manufacturing will become cheaper in that sense, then again it will be a cheaper,
End product.
end product. Similarly,
Right.
the mRNA, or siRNA, whole the mRNA community, if you have an mRNA drug coming in for cancer treatment, that you can think about this as a purely new technology. Although people have used AI to come up with a sequence for the mRNA. So then, but still that might be costlier. So it's all depends what the technology is.
Yes. Actually, it's all about the input and the output that needs to be balanced, and then things will
Yes.
be in shape. So, yes. Okay, so we'll take one more last question since we are hard on time. Can we have another question? Okay. So, is there any academic curriculum available in India to learn about AI and drug discovery? And I think, Dr. Aridhni, you're coming from an academic background. So, would you, throw some light on this? That is there enough training happening at the academic level to be able to become an entrepreneur and then start in that direction? Are we well equipped in India? Because there is an academia industry gap as we are discussing.
Yes,
So yes.
I would say a big gap between the what we are taught in the educational system and what is the requirement, and especially with AI, right? Things have just advanced at an exceptional rate, and the educational system, although trying, has not been able to cope up at that level. Having
Right.
said, I have come across a few private institutions, at least in India, which are trying to incorporate. There are specific programs where they teach something like a computational biology or a bioinformatics, where they're trying to put together both the academic setup as well as the AI setup. But yes, there is definitely a gap, and even startups is something that has only come up in the recent years. The interest of getting into startups. There is definitely a gap, especially at your PhD level. If you're doing a PhD, usually your path is PhD postdoc faculty. That's
Yes.
the path that most of the people go
Follow.
after.
Yeah.
There are a lot many options that are available, and we're just not aware about it. So I think we just need to be a little bit more vigilant of all the different options that we have. As I said today, in the VC ecosystem, there's a lack of expertise. So, you could have academics who are interested in somewhat business, but probably don't want to start right away. You can definitely go and join VCs. And
Right.
it's, at this point of time, I think you'll have to do a lot yourself. But as I said, educations, at least private institutions, are taking a lot of steps in trying to have a more holistic learning, as opposed to just a focused learning.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Redni. And I think it's all about awareness and the discussion, the kind that we are doing right now, to be able to highlight the key pain points and the good points also, so that we know where we stand and from where do we have to go and reach a high point. So as we come to the end of this webinar, guys, thank you so much for all your time, and the discussion that we had is something that we would take forward from BioSpectrum's perspective, and we will reach out to more industry people, take the talk points gathered from here to them, and keep this conversation going forward, so that we ensure success to the startups of our country and to the innovation in our country. So thank you so much, everybody, for giving us your time, and thank you for a lovely audience. And there are a few other questions also lined up. I would direct them privately to your email addresses, so that you can give the responses to them accordingly. Thank you so much for
Sure.
your time.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.